There, a massive apology for that. Unfortunately, Eskim decided that it was going to surge on the drop, and so it punched through my my inverter and dropped my computer. So yeah, that's unfortunate. But we're going to start again. So we're just getting the lobby back up and running. We will be underway very shortly. The guys have confirmed that it was a full wet quali and a dry race. So we will be setting the lobby to do that. But once I get this all set up, I will get you guys back in. Okay, cool. Okay, so we are just waiting on one last person to rejoin, um, and then we will hopefully get going as soon as possible. Unfortunately, load shedding has hit. It has taken out Titan Ash, who was in the game already. So yeah, we will be one person down, but everything should be set up and ready to go. We're just waiting for one last person. Is there still someone we're waiting for? Yeah, but we had one other person. No, we had. I'm pretty sure we had 14 people, including Titan. Okay, well, they haven't rejoined, so let's get going. Let's ready up. Cool. Good luck. Have fun, and we'll check you afterwards. Alrighty. And with that, we're going to get back into it. Should be very soon. Just making sure I'm back in the correct channels, just in case there's any sort of issues or anything. Alrighty. So, as with before, we will have a full wet quali. I have gotten confirmation that it was a fully dry race. So, for a change, we're going to see a dry race around Imola. But it does mean that everyone running a dry race setup, which everyone probably will be struggling even more in the wet because of aquaplaning and that sort of thing, especially with how wet it is. The game does render puddles, as you can see down the pit lane. There are quite a few of them. And those puddles do allow the cars to aquaplane. Now, the way the current cars work, they obviously run as low as possible to get as much of the downforce as possible, the underfloor aerodynamics working as well as possible, and that means that they run lower than last year's or previous year's cars. This also means that the plank runs even lower than before. So if you run through a puddle, the plank basically becomes a boat, and the car gets lifted off the ground. Now, wet weather tires do have a couple of millimeters of extra tread, which means that in theory, the wet weather tires themselves will actually lift the cars a little bit off the ground, but it unfortunately doesn't work as much as you would need. So the wet weather tires, although they are created for this sort of thing, they're not a perfect solution. So let's see. Once I get all my telemetry up again, let's see what the guys can do. Obviously, they're going to have to get out on their outlaps again. Everyone will probably be setting their setups properly, and that looks like the first pit crew member running out. Yeah, Dandy, it is very interesting, but I think everyone is quite done with this track in the wet. We've had this track quite a few times over the last couple of weeks in the various leagues. And every single time it's been wet at some point during the weekend, generally during the race. So the fact that it's completely wet during the during the quali here, which normally it's intermediate weather, the fact that it's completely wet in the quali is quite a difference, because it's completely dry in the race all of the way through. So the guys are looking forward to having a dry race for a change, but they have to survive the wet quali to begin with. Welcome to those of you just joining us. I see a couple of extra people just popped up. Thank you for joining us. We have had to rehost thanks to Eskom deciding that, or rather, I'm going to blame Cody's here, because Eskom has stuck to their load shedding schedule, and Eskom's load shedding schedule is, not ideal, but fine. I can deal with it. I have an inverter. But if I'm running F122 at the same time as Eskom's power goes off, only in F122, my computer then restarts. For theoretically no reason, because the inverter is online and everything else attached to the inverter works fine. But if my computer's running F122, nope, that's it. It restarts. So yeah, unfortunately we had to rehost, so that's why the guys are just on their outlaps. It looks like everyone's gone out right away, so they'll probably be running higher fuel, trying to do as many laps as possible. The wet tires are a little bit more durable than the slicks, and so people can actually run lap after lap on the same tires and not lose too much performance. And as we say, that trilogy actually misses the Villeneuve chicane, or is that... No, that's the end of the Tamburello chicane where he came off. So Botti is now the first runner. This is into the Villeneuve chicane. I'm pretty sure this is the Villeneuve chicane. And up towards Tosa. Let's see if he can get around the hairpin. And gets around the hairpin. Quite safe, staying away from the curbs, a little bit of a snap on the exit, but looks like Porti does have this a little bit more under control than some of the other guys as he heads down towards Aqua Minerale. through the 90-degree turn up the hill. Nice and safe, not pushing it too hard will probably be... that was interesting. So we have had two retirements very close together, coming out of turn number 3 or 4. Oh, that looks... both of the Red Bulls with missing front wings and tires and all the rest of it. So both the Red Bulls out in probably about 50 meters there. So 2 Red Bulls out, and that is unfortunate for them. Porty coming out of the final of the... Oh, I can't remember what that corner is called. The final corner, and Porty goes to the top of the time, so 129.653. Let's see who else out there. Trilogy had a spin. Deadpool is in the pits. Doesn't look like he completed a lap. Sketchy Dude is on and out lap. Mr. Ladmine going to the top of the time for 128.098. So Porty definitely had some sort of issue coming out of the second of the last 2 corners. Locking up heavily going, Sketchy locking up heavily going into that final little chicane, which I will bring up the names of all the corners very shortly, and I'll be able to actually do the track justice. Sketchy locking up into the final pair of left-handers as well as he preps for his lap. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It will heat up the tires, it will warm them up, so he will have a little bit more lateral traction going starting on his lap. And he gets underway. So let's see how he does going into the Tamburello chicane. Brakes at about 100, or gets off the throttle at about 125, brakes at 100. Looks like he may have overshot a little bit. Had to keep the brakes down a lot longer than you would probably hope. Going into the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. Nice and quick, carries quite a bit of speed in third gear, so a little bit lower than a couple of people would probably do that. Into Tosa, a little bit of a lockup, misses the apex, but that's not necessarily the worst way to go through there. And now heading down towards the Acqua Minerale complex, I'd call it. The first little right-hander, and then this corner here is Acqua Minerale. Looks like it's nice and neat up the hill, heading down towards the final chicane. Gets a fastest middle sector of anyone according to the track map. So let's see if he can carry that speed through as he comes into the third sector and down towards the final couple of corners. Looks like he's carrying a decent amount of speed, a little bit of a snap in the middle of the 2 corners, but a very clean looking exit now down onto the pit straight-ish thing. 129.873. So that middle sector wasn't enough, or wasn't a representation of the rest, or a good representation of the rest of the track, and Sketchy ending up only in 7th position. So Reaper at the top of the times with a 127.827. Sebi next with a 127.983. Ladmine a 128.098. So the first person outside of the 127s. Ladmine all the way down, or not all the way down to Ladmine, Dark Fox and Humid, the only ones in the 128s, and then Porty down to, or Porty and Sketchy in the 129s, quite solidly in the 129s, almost just over 1 second gap between Humid and Porty. And then KQ Microstatic 132, I know he does not like the wet, so that might be what's happening there. Reaper getting nicely out of the way of the Haas of, who was that? That was, no, that wasn't a Haas. What was that? McLaren. Was that Sebi? Must have been Sebi that he got out of the way of. And Sebi going around for another lap. Let's see if he's doing a good time. No, so that might have been a cooldown lap, 3 seconds slower than his previous time. And there we have it. So Sebi looks like he is actually on another lap, running long and not popping into the pits between his laps. Rivazza. So the the 2 corners at the end are the Rivazza corners. Obviously Rivazza 1 and Rivazza 2. This is Tosa that we're going through at the moment, and the one that I couldn't remember properly was the Piratella corner, which is one that Sebi is approaching at the moment. It's this fast left-hander, normally taken at almost full speed before you head down the hill into the Acqua Minerale complex. First corner has no real name. Acoria is that one there. Up the hill, heading towards the Variante Alta, the Alta chicane for the so yeah, the Variante Alta, which is this one here. You can take a lot of curb in normal times. Looks like Sebi is going for a lot of curb as he tries to go through there. Now heading down to the Ravazza corners. These two are quite interesting to try and get right. Normally you'd probably take them in 4th or 5th gear, and you almost want to keep your wheel turned all the way through that little pair of corners, and so it goes into the pits. So yeah, that is a lap of Imola. We'll actually ride on board with Ladbind when he gets going on his hot lap. He's currently on an out lap. Looks like he's exploring to see where the grip actually is, whether there's any sort of grip whatsoever on those curves. There probably isn't, as Potty, his teammate, spins heading towards the Villeneuve chicane. So Ladmine heading into Aqua Minerale. Definitely looks like he's pushing. So either he's trying to aggressively warm his tires, or otherwise he is looking for the grip, trying to find where exactly it is, where he can push, where he needs to be careful. He'll be running as close to a full speed lap as possible in that case, and that'll give him an idea of what he can do on his hot lap. So as he heads into the Ravazza corners, we'll go on board with him and let's see how he does on this lap. We'll actually also pull up the telemetry so that we can see exactly how he goes. So running low fuel, 7th gear in as you start the lap, little kink of 1, heading down into the Tamburello chicane. As I said, braking at about 100 meters, misses the apex in the first part of the chicane, but looks like he managed the second part fine. A little bit tight on the 3rd or 4th corner there as he heads into the Villeneuve chicane. 75 meters, brakes, takes a lot of curb on the inside of the first part, and then avoids the apex on the second part. Now heading into Tosa, massive lockup, misses the early apex, but goes for a later one, which will allow him to straighten the car a little bit more and accelerate a little harder. Lots of wheel spin on the exit there, so not an ideal exit out of there. Going through Caratella now, looks like he didn't carry as much speed as he could, so possibly feeling a little bit like the car is not entirely under him as he heads through Aqua Minerale. As I said, it is possible that everyone will be aquaplaning as well because of the low ride height of the cars, because most of them will be running a drier setup. Fastest middle sector of anyone according to the game. Don't know if that's actually real or if it's still the same glitch as we were having before. Sketchy is now the latest person to retire on the same little bit of straight that the 2 Red Bulls retired. So that little bit of straight obviously being a little treacherous, coming out of the first chicane as Ladbine gets onto the start-finish straight again and crosses the start line now, and is slower than his previous time by 0.003 of a second. So doing well to be close to his previous time, but unfortunately it's not enough to move him up at all. Humid currently on an outlap. We will see if anyone is further along than he is. Yes, Sebi is currently on an outlap as he gets loses his position to the Dark Fox, and then Reaper goes faster than his previous provisional pole time, now with a 127.265. Sector 1, we've got a yellow flag. Doesn't look like anyone's moving too slowly, so that may have just been someone going off the track. Sector 1, we've got a yellow flag again. Looks like one of the Mercedes. That's Reaper. Sebi looks like he's slowing down, getting ready for his lap. Reaper does not look like he's lost anything, no bits of wing missing. So back to Sebi as he goes through the second of the Ravazzas onto the start-finish straight, and he will push it from now. You can see his ERS over there, 90%, so it is starting to drop. So I'm going to disable the telemetry. It's interesting to watch when you're on board. Off board, it's a little bit more interesting to watch the cars themselves, I feel. So Sebi heading through into the Villeneuve chicane. Looks like he missed that first apex a little bit, hit the second one, and gets a decent exit out of there, but is almost a 10th down on his previous time. So Sebi not improving so far, 10th down on his previous time as he goes into sector 2 and up towards Paratella. Throws himself into Paratella. Doesn't take much of the curve on the exit, but those curves are quite slippery, so that may be a safe choice into Aqua Minerale. Misses the apex a little bit, goes a little bit out of the track limits, but the game has not penalized him for that. 2/10 up, so this is a good lap by Sebi. He is 2/10 up on his previous time. That should put him above the Dark Fox, just maybe, if he does manage to complete this lap and still make up a little time. He should go above Dark Fox. Let's see how he can do as he goes through the last of the Ratsa corners onto the start finish straight. Keeps as far to the right as possible, kills the bollard of the pit entrance, and Sebi goes 4/10 faster and above Dark Fox, only 400ths slower than Ladmine, exactly 400ths slower than Ladmine in fact. So that would have been quite frustrating. 400ths is nothing, and he did lose that, more than that, in the first sector. So Sebi still has some time to find in the first sector especially, but very quick in the second and third sectors. How's it, Casey? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. So we're watching KQ Microsthetic as he heads down on his outlap towards the Ravazza, the first and second Ravazza. He will be gearing up for his lap, still on the full wet tires. That obviously won't change because of the fact that we had to rehost and stick with the weather that we're running. So KQ coming across the line now to start his lap. Let's see how he does. Yeah, Casey, not too bad. A little bit of a long day, a little bit tired. So if I am a little bit less engaged than usual, that is why. But thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, just we're always here to chat. So KQ taking the second of the Tamborilla chicane apexes, very nice and tight. Hopping across the curb there. Looks like he has a lot of confidence in the car and getting quite nicely through the Villeneuve chicane as well. So, but somehow 2/10 down on his previous time. So KQ Microstatic not running the best lap, even though it's looked really clean, taking a lot of the apexes, but that may have compromised his run a little bit as he goes through Paratella and down towards Aqua Minerale. Let's see what he can do here. Obviously the second sector ends after Aqua Minerale. Up towards the end of the second sector, KQ is 4/10 over his previous time. So KQ not running a decent lap. Oh, actually, I don't know if that's his oh, it looks like he may have backed off now. No, it doesn't look like he's backed off. So 4/10 down. Not sure if that's his previous time or the fastest time of the session. Codemasters can't decide what they actually want to display, so it could be either. But we'll see shortly. 8/10 back. KQ does not do any better. So yeah, that was definitely based on his previous time. 8/10 off. That is quite slow. So KQ not finding the rhythm of the track, especially in the wet. So we'll sit with Dark Fox this time. He is coming through the second of the Ratsas and a massive snap of oversteer as he comes out of that corner. That will have compromised his exit. He is running on the intermediates, so people figuring that there is a dry enough line, and you can actually quite see it. You can see that the track is developing. This is one of the things that is really quite nice about the full, not the full qualities, but the short qualities. The track does develop. You can see the drier line on the racing line itself. So as you can see, Dark Fox taking advantage of those intermediate tires, pushing a little bit harder, will need to be a little bit more careful on the brakes, a little bit more careful on the throttle, and you can see the snap there as he gets into a slightly wetter part of the track, but you can definitely see the drier line there in front of him that he was trying to stick to. And as he, Ladmine goes to the top of the times with a 127.188. So Ladmine finding the rhythm of the track, finding it on those wet tires, So Dark Fox gambling a little bit here on the intermediates. Another snap of oversteer coming out of Acoria as he heads down towards the end of sector 2. 5 seconds up, so not quite ready for the intermediate tires, and that's a little unfortunate. This will be the last lap that he'll manage to complete. So 5 seconds a lap slower on the intermediate tires in the full wet conditions, and that is quite unfortunate. Casey, you could have come and joined us. Unfortunately, it's a little late now, but yeah, next time definitely pop into the briefing. And if we've got a seat open, which you can see, we've only got 13 people here. There are 7 seats open. If we've got seats open and you do arrive for the briefing, we'll probably let you in. So next time, just hang around in the briefing. We normally start the briefing at about 6:30. Definitely will be started, and we'll actually be discussing admin stuff by 6:45. And Humid goes to top, steals that top lap time from Ladmine, but Ladmine is coming through the Ravatsas at the moment. Looks like there was a yellow flag there, so Ladmine not going quicker. Humid takes the top time with a 1:27.168. Ladmine coming into the pits, 1:27.188 in second place. Reaper looks like he is throwing himself down towards the Ravatsas. Coming through first of the Ravatsas, looks like it's got a decent exit, carries lots of speed, uses a lot of curb on the outside. Snap of oversteer coming out of the second Ravatsa as he heads down towards the start-finish line, and does not go faster, 3/10 slower than his previous time. So this is your order. We have Humid in first place with a 1:27.168. Ladmine only 0.02 of a second back. Reaper 1:27.265. Sebi 1:27.459. Dark Fox in fifth place with a 1:27.854. Now, unfortunately, I just realized that something wasn't open that was meant to be open because of my unfortunate crash. So these, I won't have all of the lap data that that we've just been shown for our standings and so on, but that's fine because it has reminded me that things need to be opened, and I'm just making sure that things are running correctly now as we come to the end of this session. So Humid up in the first place, gap to Ladmine, as I said, 0.02 of a second. That was so close, especially in the wet. But now we get to the race. The race will be clear and dry all the way through, so I'm sure the guys will be incredibly happy about that. They have raced Imola in the wet for the last few times, actually, either intermediates or full wets. And I'm sure they're looking forward to a race that will be dry all the way through. We actually did Imola on Assetto Corsa a little while ago when F1 wasn't actually working, and we've got the F122 cars as well. So yeah, we did that last time, I think it was actually, when we tried to run Imola. Alrighty, so here we go with 5 red lights, and we start, or we don't. That was very interesting. Hopefully that is not a sign of things to come, but Humid away fairly well. Ladmine gets a better start than Humid, and looks like he is going to try around the outside of... Ooh, that looked like contact there. Looks like someone off the track as well in the background. Ladmine losing a lot of positions as he got a not a great line through the first chicane. Obviously first lap shenanigans, that is unfortunate for him, but he has lost a couple of positions as Humid manages to keep the position out in front. Sebi now up to second place, Reaper in third place, and we have a yellow flag in the background that looks like, who is that? Ooh, that is a Williams into the wall in the background, and Venom in the Red Bull also not getting a great run through Tosa. Jarvis and KQ Microstatic busy fighting through Peritella and down into Aqua Morale. KQ cedes the position and allows Jarvis to get through, but that is the safe play when you're going through Aqua Morale. Who is that? That is KQ Microstatic weaving to try and get some temperature into their tires. So KQ Microstatic on the soft tires, weaving to try and get some temperature into it. It looked a little bit too violent for it to be anything other than that. That wouldn't have been defensive, especially with his teammate behind him. But KQ trying to get some temperature into those tires, which is unusual. The Cody's did actually fix the they changed the tire mechanics, and it does mean that the tires perform a little bit differently to what people are used to. So maybe that is what's happening with KQ Microstatic. He may have over-adjusted his setup towards the new patch, and so he's now struggling to get temperature into those tires. So we have Humid out in first place, Sebi in second, Reaper in third, Labmine in fourth, Dark Fox in fifth position, Jarvis in sixth, followed by KQ, followed by Sketchy, followed by Trilogy, followed by Suffix, and then in the last three positions, Venom, Deadpool, who's just gone through, and Putty in the pits. So quite a lot of changes in the first couple of laps. Jarvis up 7 positions from his starting position. So Jarvis making a great start in the Red Bull, 3/10 back from the Dark Fox, and I'm sure he is not going to stay there for too much longer. It looks like whatever he has got in that setup is working incredibly well at the moment, so we're going to stick on with him. We're actually going to ride on board with him in the very blue Red Bull. And let's see what he can do as they head into the first of the reversals. Looks like Jarvis is braking quite a bit later than Dark Fox, but Dark Fox is on the medium tires. So let's head across to the tires. Looks like a bunch of people are getting faster laps at the moment. Reaper with the fastest lap at the end of that first little section. So Jarvis on the softs is the highest of the soft runners. KQ Microstatic behind him also on the softs. Venom on the hards and Putty on the hards. Those guys are on the alternate strategies. Putty obviously had to pit early, so that's why he has gone into the hards. He might be looking to try and make them air last until the end of the race. Jarvis looking like he outbraked himself a little bit, but gets a decent exit, takes the karting line through there, it makes a little V, and now is looking at the inside of the Dark Fox through Peritella, but that is a very fast corner, and so it can be quite dangerous, especially with our wheel-to-wheel rules. If he washes wide into the Dark Fox, he will get a penalty, so it decides not to go for it just yet and sticks behind the Dark Fox going through Aqua Morale. But all the time that they're fighting, he will be chowing through those soft tires. Those soft tires will be getting hotter, especially the rears will be getting hotter in every single one of those acceleration zones, and KQ Microstatic behind him sitting at 7/10, so he will be trying to get out of the worst of the dirty air of Jarvis at the moment and trying to preserve his tires a little bit. So while Jarvis is trying to push to get past the Dark Fox, we have Deadpool spinning through Tosa, and Putty will be past him quite easily there. Humid, top of the times with a 119 point. I missed that unfortunately, so let's go and just check. 119.096. Humid with a 119 flat. That is a really great lap there, and he is starting to pull away from Sebi as the DRS starts to come into effect. So being outside of that 1 second gap is actually very important. The DRS is quite powerful here. It is quite a long one, and it does go into a very hard braking zone. So let's see what people can do. And Jarvis looks like he did try for a move on the Dark Fox, but thought better of it and did end up right back behind Dark Fox again. But these two fighting will be good for the guys out in front. Landmine will be trying to pull out of that 1 second gap of the guys behind him, but Jarvis, all the time that he is stuck here within 2/10 of the Dark Fox, that will be chowing through his tires. It will be affecting them in a massive way, and he will be starting to feel it quite a lot sooner than he otherwise would. KQ Microstatic 5/10 back in with the other soft tires. He won't be feeling it as much, but he won't be immune to it as well. Deadpool spinning coming out of the Tamburello chicane once again. So Jarvis 2/10 back. Let's see if he is close enough. It doesn't look like he's close enough to the Dark Fox just yet, unless he wants to go for a very late braking maneuver, but it is too late there already as they go through the Tamburello chicane. So this is the closest battle on the field at the moment, creating a little bit of a train. KQ Microstatic within DRS as well, and for a moment Sketchy was as well. So Jarvis and Dark Fox creating a little bit of a DRS train. It won't be good for Dark Fox, but it also won't be good for anyone in that train, because that will mean that all of those guys are running a lot faster to that first corner, and with it being such a heavy braking zone, it will mean that they will be wearing through their front tires a lot quicker than they otherwise would. The other thing is Jarvis will be getting dirty air coming off that car in front, not as much as last year, but it is enough to cause the tires to slide across the track a little bit more than it would if there wasn't that dirty air. So Jarvis 2/10 back, much closer to Dark Fox this time as they head into the Ravazza corners. No one really running away with this at the moment as Humid starts to come up on Deadpool as a lapped car. So Jarvis 2/10 back, less than 2/10 back now. Looks like both of them are dumping ERS, and Dark Fox a little bit faster on the straights. That will be what is frustrating Jarvis at the moment as Reaper and Sebi fight for position as well. And we've got Deadpool causing a yellow flag in the first sector, so that's nothing really to worry about. Sebi will get a little bit washed wide as Deadpool was on the apex there, but Deadpool did get out of the way from most of the train of drivers. Obviously he is ghosted, so he doesn't have to get too far out of the way, and he can get onto the apex without causing any sort of issues for the guys, but it does sometimes mean that they're unsighted on the apex. So Reaper out in front, 1.7 seconds back from Humid, who is starting to pull away now. Sebi 5/10 back from him. Ladmine 3/10 back from him. Dark Fox 5/10 back. Then Jarvis 4/10, KQ Microstatic 8/10. So that is the DRS train at the moment. Sketchy out of the DRS train. Trilogy 3.9 seconds back, not having a great race so far. Venom having an even worse race, 8 seconds back. Suffix in the Alpha Tauri, 16.8 seconds back. Porty 31 seconds back from Suffix, and Deadpool 34 seconds back from Porty, having been lapped already. So Humid out in front, running a commanding lap, commanding race, and KQ Microstatic gets a penalty for speeding into the pit lane. KQ coming in and getting rid of the soft tires, one of only 2 soft tire runners, so let's see what he's going to go on. If he goes onto the hard, he might theoretically be able to push to the end of the race if he does some tire management, but he is going onto the medium tires and looks like he's going to come out quite far back from Venom. So KQ Microstatic has quite a lot to do. Let's see what he can do as he heads out of the pits. We see Deadpool going out into the gravel. Humid out in front in the Ferrari, 1.6 seconds up, but it looks like Reaper, Suffix has retired from the race. Let's see if we can see where that happened. That happened on the pit, in the pit box itself. So Suffix having some sort of issue with deciding to retire in the pit lane, so that won't cause any sort of safety car or anything like that, so these gaps are going to maintain the way that they are. Landmine, the start of the DRS train, and now only down to Jarvis. So not sure what happened to Suffix. Sorry to see you out of the race so early, 7 laps in, but he has retired in the pits, and his car has now disappeared, and no more random yellow flags. But as we say that, it looks like we have a little bit of on-track action as Dark Fox manages to defend from Landmine. No, manages to get past Ladmine. So Dark Fox making a move up past Ladmine at the moment, and the two of them not done fighting yet. Ladmine only 3/10 back, but starting to lose more and more time as the Dark Fox goes into Tosa at the moment. And Ladmine dropping back the entire time. So Ladmine may be having a setup that wears through his tires a little bit quicker, and the Dark Fox's tires lasting a little bit longer, and so he's able to push a little bit harder, not losing as much traction as his opponent. But in the meantime, we have Jarvis. Oh, the Dark Fox has lost a couple of positions. Oh, right, spun out of Acoria. He was below the hill, unfortunately, and so we could not see him, and that's why we saw all the other cars going through and nothing untoward. Dark Fox spinning out of Acoria, and that is really unfortunate for him, losing him a number of positions. He was running in 4th, now running in 8th. So Dark Fox, unfortunately, spinning. Let's see if he comes into the pits. We will go on board, not on board with him, but watch him off board, and doesn't duck into the pits this time. So not ready to get rid of those tires, and keeps going as Jarvis comes into the pits. So Jarvis getting rid of those soft tires and putting on the hard Pirelli rubber. 9 laps in, that will be 23 laps to go. It's a long stint, but I wouldn't say that it's not possible. So let's see what Jarvis can do. Venom 8 laps old on, or 8 lap old hards at the moment, so that team do actually have some data on the hard tires and a wear rate at the very least. So let's see if they have made the right gamble going from those soft tires onto the hards. Ooh, Humid getting a snap of oversteer coming out of the Variante Alta, which will mean that Reaper is able to catch up a little bit, as we have Deadpool spinning, going through the Tamburello chicane, or coming out of the Tamburello chicane. So Reaper 1.2 seconds back from Humid. Humid having that massive snap of oversteer and losing a couple of tenths to Reaper behind. So Reaper is getting closer all the time to his opponent out in front. Both of these technically in clear air. Reaper will be should be getting a slipstream. I don't know how good Cody's slipstreaming is this year, but should be getting a slipstream. Venom now spun. So Venom spinning coming out of the Variante Alta. That is very Charles Leclerc of him, but it looks like he got going fairly nice and quickly. In the meantime, Trilogy has been overtaken by the Dark Fox, so Dark Fox fighting back after his spin. Currently up in 6th, had dropped down to 8th, so 2 positions gained already as Reaper starts pulling back from Humid again. So Reaper looks like he might have a slightly lower downforce setter than Humid, and so through the twisty sort of 1.5 to 2 sector, the Humid seems to be pulling away a little bit, and then Reaper catches him on the straight sections of the track at the end of 3 and at the beginning of 1. So closest race at the moment is Ladmine following Sebi within a second. So he will get DRS coming down the pit straight. DRS should open here. There it is. Rear wing opens up, reduces the amount of drag from the aerodynamic structure of the car, and Ladmine will gain a couple of tenths normally to Sebi, and he will then have to try and maintain that gap. So if Ladmine can maintain that gap, then he'll take a couple of tenths come the next lap, and that will allow him to then slowly creep up to the back of Sebi. But it doesn't look like he's able to keep up through this middle section. Ladmine now down to 9.5 tenths. Actually 1 second. So Ladmine falling back to over a second. That is a massive pace differential between Sebi and Ladmine out of seemingly nowhere. Ladmine had been keeping up for a while, had been actually clawing his way back to the gearbox of Sebi, but it looks like he's dropped back now to over a second, 1.2 seconds, and that was down to 6 tenths at the end of the pit straight towards the Tamburello chicane. Deadpool being lapped once again. Looks like we've got a yellow flag in the background. That is Venom that caused that yellow flag. Looks like he's underway again fine. 10 lap old hards shouldn't be struggling with tires at the moment as we head out to the front, and we see Humid still just outside of that 1 second gap to Reaper. So Humid maintaining that gap, making sure that he is not giving his opponent DRS as they head down towards the Tamburello chicane. And now Reaper will be trying all the way through the lap to get right up to the back of that Ferrari. 1.1 seconds, 1.06 seconds. So Reaper is fluctuating quite a lot in the timing of his runs. definitely has a little bit of pace in various positions over Humid, but cannot get to the back of him enough to get the DRS going into the DRS zone itself, out of the Ravazzas and down towards the Tamburello chicane. Humid running 3/10 slower than his fastest time at the moment, according to the timing screen up in the top right. Dark Fox gets a penalty for track limits, and we've actually got a couple of penalties running around at the moment, which we haven't actually spoken about. So let's leave that on interval. Let's go to penalties. 3 seconds for the most part, other than KQ Microstatic, and Humid comes into the pits. So Humid on the medium tires, deciding it is time to dump them. 13 laps in, he is likely to go onto the hards if he's going for a safe strategy. He is indeed. So Humid going for a one-stop strategy, going onto the hard tires after 13 laps. It is not a bad stint to the end of the race, but he drops down to 6th position, possibly 7th position as Trilogy passes him. The next person on track is Deadpool in the other Williams, who has been lapped, so he is not going to be part of this race. But Humid comes out of the pits and immediately locks up going into the Tamburello chicane. So those hard tires, difficult to fire up. We did see that earlier with the Red Bull drivers. Difficult to fire up, and there we go. KQ Microstatic in the meantime has managed to get a fastest lap of the race with a 1:18.952, and that is on the medium tires. So KQ, that was Trilogy, I do believe, that has spun out. Yes, indeed. Trilogy spins out and lets Humid through quite nice and easily. KQ Microstatic is behind Humid at the moment, 3.5 seconds back on medium tires. So he does have a tire advantage over Humid, but Humid's tires are a lot newer. So this is not a guaranteed pass for KQ, but he did have a lot of pace there. And in the meantime, Trilogy in the Williams is really struggling to get going again. Looks like his wings are fine, so I believe his tires may have overheated as Sebi comes into the pits and allows Sketchy to get past. So we are seeing the first of the pit stops. That looks like Dark Fox going into the pits as well. So pit stops starting to happen and people starting to get rid of their starting tires. Sector 3, that looks like a Williams. So one of the two Williams spinning through the Ravazza turns as well. Humid is now up into 4th position. He is the highest of the pitted runners. Dark Fox falling quite far back with his pit stop, falling down to 8th position behind Venom in the Red Bull. So Dark Fox's pit stop did put him quite far back, but now we see a Red Bull spinning. That was Venom himself who actually spun, and the Dark Fox goes through and back up into 7th position. So the pitting runners are in 4th, 5th, 6th, technically, with KQ Microstatic, who might be going on an aggressive 2-stop strategy, and the Dark Fox. Jarvis has also pit. If I recall correctly, he did get damaged and was forced to pit off off soft tires. He actually did run the soft tires quite deep into the race, so let's see what he can do with those hard tires and see if he can push them all the way to the end of the race. Venom and Putty have not pitted yet. Landmine has not pitted, and Sketchy has not pitted, but we do have Landmine coming into the pits at the moment, and Reaper has come into the pits as well. So let's see, where is Humid as they come to the end of the pit lane. Looks like the undercut has worked, and it looks like Reaper is going to get out on track before, and Landmine might as well. No, Landmine's at the end of the pit lane with his pit box, so that may have been that. So Reaper has managed to make the undercut work, overcut rather, and so Humid is now on warmer tires but behind Reaper. Let's see what he can do on those warmer tires already within a second of a within a second, but down to 7/10, 6/10 already. Those warm tires making all the difference in the world as Landmine fights with KQ Microstatic for position. Or Landmine also on cold tires, KQ Microstatic on warm medium, so we'll have the tire advantage, the tire differential advantage, as well as warm tires on Landmine, who has just come out of the pits. Humid already 2/10 back from Reaper and fighting with him on track for the position, but into the Variante Alta Humid does manage to take Reaper and is ahead going into the Ravata, but within a second. So Reaper obviously has the slightly newer tires. He will have DRS coming out of here, and by now his tires will be starting to warm up. It takes about 2 laps for the hard tires to warm up, so Reaper will be taking this this DRS, using it to keep close to Humid and to try and get his tires a little bit warmer as he tries to keep this gap maintained. And this will allow him to push a little bit harder into the race, a little bit harder behind Humid, and it will mean once the tires are up to temperature, he will have the benefit of the DRS as well as newer tires. So this little battle on track, Sketchy out in front, 15 seconds up, or 12 seconds up now, 15 lap old medium tires. He will need to try and get rid of those, but it does look like the overcut was working. So if Sketchy can push, although it doesn't look like he's pushing hard enough, he might be able to make the overcut work as well. He will need to make up a whole bunch of time or have a safety car happen in the next couple of laps for him to be able to then get a 3 pit stop. But I doubt that is going to happen anytime soon. In the meantime, Reaper is still within 4/10 of Humid. You can see that he is pushing, he is trying to get close enough to take that position. 5.5 difference between them heading into the Ravatsas. 5 now as they break for the Ravatsas and go through the first of the left-handers into the second of the left-handers, and Reaper is 4/10 back, 4.5. Humid looks like he's trying to break the toe as the DRS opens on the Mercedes, and Reaper is hunting down that Ferrari. He wants to get ahead of that red car, and 3/10 at the end of the straight down into the Tamburello chicane, and they will be pushing as hard as they can as Dark Fox decides to announce his presence with a fastest lap of a race, currently running in 7th place, trying to catch up to Landmine once again. So he is still in that fight with Landmine, and let's see whether he can make it work from 7th place. But in the meantime, Reaper is within 2/10, looking to the inside of Peristella, just making himself known in the mirrors of the car ahead. Into Aqua Minerale, right up against the gearbox of that Ferrari. Not sure if there was a little bit of contact there, but it was close enough that there could have been. And down into the Variante Alta, Humid looks like he might be under a little bit of pressure as they head down towards the Ravatsas. Will Reaper decide to pass here? Will Humid play silly games with the DRS? No, it does not look like Humid is going to let Reaper through this time, not before the DRS, which means Reaper will have DRS coming onto the start-finish straight as they head past the pit lane, and DRS will open now. Reaper will be pulling up close to that Ferrari and alongside, looking at the inside of the Tamburello chicane and already past. Humid looking for the switchback, but deciding against it. Just getting in behind Reaper will probably try and keep that gap maintained and then try again in the next of the DRS zones as another of the Williams once again spins in the background. So let's see what these two can do as they have switched position. Humid now in 3rd place with 5-lap-old hard tires, and we have a spin in the form of the Dark Fox coming out of the Tamburello chicane. He was catching up to Landmine. He did get the fastest lap of the race, but obviously pushing as hard as he possibly can and losing, probably losing the rear with where that went off. But back to this battle for 2nd place. Humid is actually falling back a little bit. He is 6/10 back, almost 7/10 back at the moment, and does not look comfortable in that car. Massive understeer there. Did manage to make up some time, so may have carried just a little bit too much speed into the Variante Alta, but down towards the Ravata, 6/10 back, 5.5, braking a little bit later. So Humid still pushing, but carrying a little bit too much speed, pushing a little bit too hard, and not making the most of the lines at the moment. He is following Reaper 1:18.453, so does forget the fastest lap of the race now that he's in clear air. But Humid deciding that he is not having any of this. He is not going to take this lying down. He is pushing as hard as he can and is 4/10 back going through the Tamburello chicane. So these guys pushing as hard as they can as we have another Williams spin in the second sector. Looks like a fairly safe corner to spin at, going through Peritella, so that's not too much of a problem. Doesn't look like he's had too much of a problem and is on the way again. Humid 7/10 back going through the second sector. So the second sector is not a good place for Humid on these new tires. If I recall correctly, Humid was pulling away from Reaper in these middle sectors on the previous stint, but on these hard tires, Humid's car does not seem to be as put together as he was on the medium tires. Now 6.5 tenths back coming out of the Variante Alta. Looks like a Williams out after the Tamburello chicane again and getting underway without any sort of issue. 6/10 back for Humid. 6.5 for a moment, down to under 6/10 as he opens the DRS. But I don't think he is fast enough to make that work. Sketchy now coming into the pits very late, 19 laps in, and we have a safety car. That is going to be good news for Sketchy, as everyone will have to slow down, but I don't know if that came a little bit too late for him. That is going to be incredibly frustrating for Sketchy. If he had waited one more lap, he would have gotten a free pit stop. That's one of those things where I can only imagine he is bashing his table at the moment. It looks like I don't actually know what the safety car is for. So we've got Deadpool spun on track. Okay, Deadpool is missing a wing. So I assume the safety car was because he has lost his wing, possibly on track, which would have meant that there is debris on the track, and the game does actually push out the safety car every now and then for that. I do believe because Deadpool's struggling to get back to the pits as well, so possibly a little bit more damage than just the wing, and that might be why we have a safety car. There might be debris on the track, and if there's debris on the track, it can cause damage with the simulation damage model. So let's see. Okay, Trilogy has gone past the safety car. Managed to get past it just in time to not be picked up by it. I'm just trying to see if there's any sort of debris on the track. Doesn't look like there's anything obvious, so I think Deadpool did spin. I think he did lose his wing. I think the safety car came out because of that. KQ Microstatic, coming into the pits, that's why he's losing positions. Obviously you cannot pass under the safety car. Everyone has been told about these rules, so there are no excuses for passing under the safety car. But there you have it, safety car out, Reaper ahead of Humid leading, Sebi leading the Landmine, leading Sketchy in 5th position, still trying to catch up to the back of the safety car. Then it's Dark Fox in 6th, Microstatic in 7th, Jarvis in 8th, Jarvis 40 in 9th, Venom in 10th, Trilogy in 11th, and Deadpool in 12th. Deadpool has now retired from the session, so Deadpool definitely did have more damage than it appeared, more than just the front wing, and so I think that's why there was that the safety car coming out. There must have been quite a bit of debris on the track. Sketchy and Dark Fox swapping positions and then giving them back. May have just been a situation where Sketchy... Okay, so it looks like for some reason Sketchy may have gone a little bit off track. Dark Fox got past him in that moment. They've now just given the position back. Dark Fox going off track so that the game doesn't decide that it was an illegal overtake when Sketchy gets past. So good sportsmanship there from the two of them. It's always good to see that sort of thing. And we are now under the safety car. And that does good things for the race. Reaper falling quite far back from the safety car there for a moment, so we'll need to keep an eye on people's distance from the safety car. But yeah, this does good things for the race. It obviously backs people up. A lot of people on those hard tires, a couple of people on medium tires, Java Sporty and Venom all three on fairly new medium tires. Dark Fox on 8-lap-old hards, Sebi as well. Humid on 9-lap-old hards, Landmine and Reaper 7 laps old, Sketchy and KQ Microstatic on new hards, Trilogy on 7-lap-old hards. So this actually does do some very interesting things for the race. There are only 10 laps to go. There'll probably be at least one more under the safety car. That means that those medium tire runners should be able to push until the very end of the race. Jarvis, Putty, and Venom are actually not too slow either. So I wouldn't count them out. Sketchy definitely has the newest of the hard tires. KQ Microstatic also has very new hard tires, and both of those guys are quite quick as well. So this actually blows the entire race open in a very, very, very big way. So it's going to be good to watch. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm sure there are going to be many fights as they come down towards the Ravazza left-handers. Doesn't look like the safety car is coming in just yet, as Reaper is still right behind the safety car. Yeah, Dandy, definitely 2 laps. It isn't much, but it does affect it. Dark Fox going into the pits. So not sure why Dark Fox is going into the pits at the moment. Sebi sitting on 6 seconds of penalties. Landmine with 3 seconds of penalties. Dark Fox going into the pits. Is he getting soft tires? Yes, he is. So Dark Fox deciding he's got nothing to lose. Going into the pits, getting those soft tires should catch up to the train before the end of the lap. So this might be a very interesting gamble. It might work out really well. Dark Fox has been pushing quite hard through the race and did have a couple of moments. So if he can keep it together on those soft tires, he should have a massive pace advantage over the other guys. He did get the fastest lap earlier for a period of time until Reaper was released into the clear air. So this race, there is everything to race for, to be honest. Back to the 2 versus 9. We had a race on Sunday. I think the wear on the hard tires was about 4% per lap, or 3% per lap. So if you look at it that way, a 10-lap-old tire will have about 30%, probably 30 to 35% wear. Safety car in this lap. Dark Fox has made it to the back of the train, and he will have warm, soft tires. He is going to be blisteringly quick on those soft tires. But yeah, 30 to 35% is where the cliff is. So you get a step is. So you get a step in tire performance at about 37-40%. So they will hit that first step of performance before the end of the race. In fact, in the next couple of laps, whereas 2 laps old, you're not likely to hit that before the end of the race. And Reaper did not get a good restart at all, and Humid is already all over him, looking at the inside, heading down into the Tamburello chicane, still behind as they head into the braking zone, but that won't be for very long. Has to pull out, and oh no, that is not a good place to spin. Manages to get tagged a little bit right by Reaper, I think so, and unfortunately Humid spins round and collects Sebi just before the ghosting happens. So both of the 2 out of the top 3 out of the race already. Landmine now up into 2nd place, Sketchy in 4th place, and we have another person spinning. That is Jarvis spinning, going into Tosa. That is really unfortunate for him, and it looks like he's beached. That looked like that was definitely a reset to track, which is illegal. Unfortunately, it did look like he was beached, so that we might allow that. Dark Fox made up a whole bunch of positions, then lost a whole bunch of positions, may have gone off track and given the positions back, and that was Potty spinning out and smashing into the wall. That is the end of his race, and that is another safety car. And that means that Dark Fox's gamble is unfortunately now going to turn on its head. Most of the other guys are probably going to pop into the pits to get rid of these hard tires, I imagine, especially with Dark Fox on those soft tires. Let's see what happens. So Reaper deciding to go into the pits. Landmine deciding to go into the pits. That was a very late call by Reaper. Sketchy into the pits. KQ into the pits. Trilogy into the pits. Venom into the pits. Dark Fox obviously going through. He is already on the soft tires. He will only have a 2 lap difference over the other guys. That is not a lot on the soft tires. He might be able to hold on. This is actually really good for him still. Jarvis sticking out on those medium tires, deciding that they are fast enough for him to try and keep the track position. If he defends really well, he will definitely be able to do it, but this makes it quite interesting. Dark Fox out in front, 2 lap old soft tires. It is not a lot. With a safety car out at this point of the race. So Dark Fox looks like his previous gamble has actually paid off. He will definitely get a decent position if he can keep the car pointed in the right direction. Jarvis, with the medium tires, he might get mugged a little bit on the restart, especially. He will need to try and get those tires up into the tire window as quickly as possible and keep them there, especially this close to the end of the race. Landmine with fresh, soft, sketchy, Reaper, Trilogy, KU, Humid down in 8th place from running up near the top and getting tagged going through the Tamburello chicane and taking Sebi with him. So both of them having to swap tires, both of them probably having a little bit of damage to the cars themselves. It wasn't a very big hit, but it would have been enough to cause some small damage, I think. And Venom in 10th position, also on the brand new soft. So everyone up to the back of the safety car already. I do believe the safety car will go around another time. I think it does by default go around 2 laps. So it will probably go around one more time and then release the guys with quite a lot of racing still to go. So we'll have 5 laps of racing left, I believe. 6 laps, I stand corrected. So we are likely to have 6 laps of racing left. Wait. Yes, I do believe. Sorry, I just had to double check that in my head. But yeah, 6 laps left of racing. So with everyone, almost everyone on the soft tires, it should be a spectacle to observe. Jarvis didn't pit under the safety car, so because of the previous safety car he managed to catch the end of the safety car, and then he didn't pit under the safety car, so he is out of position as such, but he is running on the medium tires, so that is something to keep in mind as the safety car announced that it is going to be coming in this lap. Dark Fox will start backing up the field. It looked like Sketchy slowed down quite a lot there, and Reaper had to pull alongside him. So hopefully that's not a breach of the rules. So Dark Fox trying to warm his tires, get them up and running. He does have Jarvis behind him, which is quite an advantage. Jarvis is on those medium tires, and Dark Fox looks like he went early, and that has dropped Jarvis back quite far already, and Landmine already 3/10 back from Jarvis, looking at the back of that Red Bull and deciding, probably wanting to get past it as soon as possible. Jarvis taking a little bit of defensive line, heading into the Tamburello chicane as they all go through. Let's make sure that they do all go through. And this time everyone manages to get through cleanly, but there are a couple of moves. Reaper looking at the inside of Sketchy, going into the Villeneuve chicane, but deciding not to try it just yet. Now shaking for a move down towards Tosa as well, but again, deciding not to go for it just yet. So these soft runners are going to be trying to fight as quickly as possible, but Jarvis is the cork in the bottle at the moment on those medium tires. He is holding up the rest of the pack, and the Dark Fox is managing to make good on those soft tires. That tire advantage over Jarvis is going to matter quite a lot towards the end, especially if he can make up enough space to get way out of the DRS zone of the cars behind. Landmine is being frustrated by that Red Bull at the moment, and I am sure he is going to want to get past as quickly as possible. But going into the Ravazza is going to be a dangerous move, a more dangerous move than otherwise might be necessary. But on those soft tires, he will be wanting to get past as quickly as possible so he doesn't lose touch with Dark Fox out in front. And you can see even out of the Ravazza, that was not enough to make it through. Dark Fox going with a fastest lap with a 1:17.551. And still, Jarvis manages to maintain his position all the way down to the Tamburello chicane, still in front of Landmine, and in the background Reaper and that sketchy dude are also fighting, and Jarvis loses it. Those medium tires not performing as well as the soft tires, pushing a little bit too hard and ending up spinning out, and we were actually lucky to catch that coming out of the Tamburello chicane, and that is unfortunate for Jarvis. That drops him all the way back to the end, back of the queue because of that safety car. So now Landmine needs to make up 2 whole seconds, and he still has to worry about that sketchy dude behind. 9/10 back, but with Reaper for company. Reaper 2/10 back at the moment, and will be causing Sketchy to drive a little bit more defensively. Let's see if Sketchy can keep track of Landmine. Looks like he's falling back 1 second, and obviously there is no DRS for the first couple of laps after a safety car, so that is going to be unfortunate for him. Humid does manage to get past KK Microstatic, I'm pretty sure that was, and is now fighting at the back of Trilogy. So we have 2 separate trains forming, or 2 separate trains running at the moment. KK Microstatic falling back even further, takes it a little bit too much at the Ravazza and ends up in the gravel, and Sebi is now passed as well. DRS now re-enabled. Reaper right on the back of Sketchy, but not nearly as close as you would expect with that time difference. And Humid already passed Trilogy, but Trilogy hits into the back of Humid going into the Tamburello chicane, goes off into the gravel, but I wonder if that would have caused some sort of diffuser damage for Humid. Will need to keep an eye on his pace as Sebi is behind him, and he will be trying to make up for Humid collecting and coming through the Tamburello chicane and being spun earlier. KQ Microstatic 6/10 back, making up some time on Sebi as well. So one will be wanting to make up some positions. This is the perfect opportunity for him to do so. Meantime, Reaper still within 5/10, 4/10 now of that sketchy dude heading into Acoria. That's too close too soon. He needs to be that close going into, or coming out of the variant Alta, so that he can get as close as possible going into the Ravazza chicane. And we have another spin. That is Venom, I do believe, in the Red Bull, spinning out at Acoria as we see Humid going wide at the variant Alta, and that gives Sebi an opportunity to get even closer. 6/10 now the difference. Reaper going to the inside of that sketchy dude in the Ravazza, and Sketchy falling back, falling out of position, going a little wide through the second of the Ravazzas, and Humid now, or no, Reaper going through, and Reaper did still get DRS, so that was a well-timed move that gave him the DRS down the straight and gave him the opportunity to solidify that position over that sketchy dude. But Sketchy has not lost touch with him just yet, as Dark Fox keeps his position out at the front of the track. We will put this, we'll leave that on penalties, we'll put this on leader so that we can see what's happening as far as the leader gap is concerned. Dark Fox obviously out of the lead, 3-second penalty, so as long as he can keep Reaper out of that 3-second window, that will be a first place for him. And you can see currently Reaper is 4.2 seconds back, Sketchy is 5 seconds back. That's the other person that could possibly come into play due to penalties. Let's go back to intervals, and we can see that Reaper is actually likely to get second place, as Landmine also has that 3-second penalty. So if Reaper can keep within those 3 seconds, Reaper will take second place, and it will be a Mercedes 1-2 with an Aston Martin in third place. But we also have Sketchy to worry about. If Sketchy and Reaper work together, they will be able to come up to the back of Landmine. That would be quite interesting if he can manage to, I don't know if he'd do that to his teammate. Obviously Dark Fox and Reaper are teammates, or were teammates at the very least. I'm not sure if they still are, But if they aren't still teammates, then I doubt Reaper would want to take that position away from Dark Fox. But we also have Humid to worry about. Humid right on the back of that sketchy dude. Looked like there was a little bit of contact there, but doesn't look like there's any sort of wing damage or anything. Sebi right behind as well. So Humid wanting to get past that sketchy dude. If he does get past, he might be able to do something about Reaper as well. And if he does pull up to the back of Reaper, Reaper will then have to start racing a little bit more defensively. But Dark Fox is now outside of 3 seconds to Landmine as well. So Dark Fox, a commanding lead at the moment, making his presence known, and Human is now past Sketchy. I don't know if Sketchy got out of the way because Human kept bullying him, or whether that was a legitimate move. But Sketchy back through down towards the Ravatsas will get to the DRS line first, which means that Humid would likely get the DRS. We'll see what happens as they go side by side through the Ravatsa, and Sebi right behind. Sebi will be wanting to take advantage of this, will get DRS as well. So both Sketchy and Sebi get through with the DRS on Humid. Humid shooting a little bit too early there, and so ending up in a situation where he did not get DRS. The two cars right behind him did, and so we have a spin. That is Humid spinning out in the background, and that is likely to be catastrophic, especially as this is the final lap of the race. So Humid dropping down behind KQ Microstatic. KQ driving a decent recovery drive after his issues a little bit earlier. Sebi in 5th place, managing to make up a couple of positions, obviously not as much as he would have liked after that moment that he got collected by Humid. He also has 6 seconds of penalty, so he will very definitely drop behind KQ Microstatic, but doesn't look like he'll drop behind Humid as well. Sebi is looking to try and get past Sketchy though, and if he does, it's not going to change too much considering we're so close to the end of the race. But this is still the closest fight on track at the moment. Sketchy does look like he's used up all of his ERS. His ERS light is flashing at the moment as Sebi comes to the back of him as they come through the Vatsa for the final time. Dark Fox has won the race. Reaper has come in 2nd. Landmine in 3rd place. Sketchy comes across the line in 4th. Sebi in 5th, but drops down to 6th due to penalties. Humid in 7th. That is really unfortunate for him. KK Microstatic, I did miss him, in 5th place. Trilogy in 8th. Venom coming through in 9th place. The Red Bulls have not had a good race session. I was going to say weekend, but it's not the weekend. The Red Bulls not having a great session in 9th and 10th, but it is a double points finish, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Both of them, I'm sure, will be feeling like they could have done a lot better. But Dark Fox, after that pit stop under the first safety car, and then I think it was Jarvis that managed to stay out in the front with those medium tires and held up the pack while Dark Fox was able to make that gap and managed to maintain it over Landmine and the rest of the pack. So Dark Fox out in front, fastest lap of the race as well with a 1:17.551. Reaper in 2nd place in the other Mercedes, Landmine in 3rd in the Aston Martin, Sketchy and KQ Microstatic in 4th and 5th in the Haas. Sebi, after being collected by Humid, in 6th place. Humid in 7th, managing to recover a couple of places, but he's probably going to be livid with Reaper after that tiny little bit of contact. Trilogy and Venom and Jarvis make up the top 10 and all of the finishers. Potty, Deadpool and Suffix DNFs, unfortunately. And there we have the end of the race. So yeah, it was a dry race. It saw many things happen, mostly towards the end. Unfortunately, there was a little bit going on in the first couple of laps, or the first 2/3 of the race, but definitely the final third of the race after that first safety car perfectly illustrated the safety cars lead to safety cars mantra. And we saw a new safety car only a couple of laps later, and that meant that Dark Fox, after pitting late under the first safety car, was able to make it work when the second safety car came out, and he was able to run away with the win in the end. And there we have it. The end of round number 4 of the Acoria F122 League. Luckily, we managed to get it done this time, and yeah, that was actually quite a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. But for now, that will be the end of it. Thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate you joining us. I do appreciate all of you guys that mentioned anything in the chat, and hope to see you again next time. But for now, that'll be it. Thank you so much. We'll check you next time.